Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires. Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me, I go back to me, yeah, I'm back to me. Hello everyone, it's your host, Yoli Tamu. Every day we turn on the news and it feels like man's inhumanity to man has taken center stage. But what if you could travel abroad, learn about yourself through diverse cultures, and rediscover man's ability to humanize itself through unforgettable college study experiences? In today's episode, Dr. Daniel Wehrenfennig, Executive Director and founder of the Center for International Experiential Learning, joins us to share how experiential learning and immersive international travel in conflict-affected regions inspires critical thinking and creative engagement to counter division and polarization. Receive college credit, travel, develop international friendships, and find out just how similar we really are. Now, the college experience on campus is amazing in itself, but when you consider traveling abroad with a cause, your experience can be even better. Today, we have Dr. Daniel Wehrenfennig, Executive Director and founder of CIEL, a nonprofit organization designed to inspire critical thinking and creative engagement to counter division and polarization in our world. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Daniel. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Doing well.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we met.
Likewise, that was a very nice addition to the world in Los Angeles.
Oh, thank you. Same to you. It's so good to have a great networking experience with Markeith. He put on an event, and that's how we met. So I'm so glad we connected to talk about studying abroad. This is a great topic. Now, where are you from? Because you have this incredible accent.
I have this accent and I keep it. I'm from Germany and have been here for 20 years though. But I like keeping the little accent, that just makes the bouquet of our cultural experience even better when we have, that international perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Staying true to your culture and true to yourself is important. Now, I want to get into this. For this nonprofit, CIEL, you said that means something. Tell me what CIEL means.
Yeah, so CIEL stands for the Center for International Experiential Learning, but it also means CIEL means sky or heaven in French. And so I think this idea for us of broadening your horizon, of really sky, heaven, travel, kind of getting out there into the world to learn, to reflect, to gather in more information about yourself, about things you see in your experience. And that really informing your life and your present where you are, it just became such a wonderful way of combining that acronym as actually also meaning a word in a context.
Very nice. And you founded this nonprofit. Who inspired you?
There's so many people inspired me, but I want to say when I had the opportunity when I was younger to travel a lot, like locally in Europe, to other places, but then get the chances to also spend time, where my particular expertise is to spend time what people would define as conflict zones or conflict affected areas. So spend some time in the Middle East, in the Kosovo, in Northern Ireland and others. And I was fascinated, by being in these places of division, of different people, of a history of conflict and all of that, but also how people move beyond that. And being German myself with our own history, feeling and seeing and working through that, what that means to myself, has always been a fascinating topic to myself. And that, experience helped me a lot in clarifying my own things and my own thinking and my own approaches to the world and to the work I do. So that, was coming from that. And then after working for 20 years in the university system, I got inspired to really create an independent and outside nonprofit to better serve students and the people in the system. Sometimes there's a bigger advantage to be outside of the system and working with it than being inside of it. So after 20 years of being a professor and being inside the university system, now being outside and helping with study abroad and related issues, is a wonderful place to really, put into action all the things I learned myself and creating opportunities for students.
Wow, that's pretty interesting that you decided to specifically target challenging areas, like you said, the Middle East. I mean, wow, you weren't nervous about that, taking kids with you to do something like that?
You're always nervous, and that's a good thing. But on the other side, I feel like I learned, to look at conflicts in a different way. I feel like a lot of the times, I think we're getting taught today to avoid conflicts or to avoid difficulties, that it's, you kind of like defriend the person that says the wrong thing, or you move away, or you don't talk to the people who don't say the right things that you do. But that, I think, is a challenging aspect into a world that's becoming more and more beautiful and diverse. And, but people are really getting better and more quick to express their individualistic, their differences and their beauty in culture, in context, in a religion, gender, whatever in so many different ways, which also means that we're ultimately going to rub against each other. So I also want to kind of like define conflict differently. Yes, there's a certain level of danger. Yes, there's a certain level of discomfort. But I think that makes it also so much more human and important to engage, I think, as we should do wherever we are on a consistent level anyways.
Wow. So you're really teaching life skills at the same time.
That's the hope. That's what people tell me. They take a lot away from it.
Absolutely. So now when you approach the students, how does this work? I mean, they are former students when you were in the college, or these are students that come by word of mouth? How do they find out about your program?
So a lot of that, is through, doing this work for now 20 years, is through colleagues, to having worked with a lot of students. So a lot of former students tell, their siblings or other people about the work. But we have a big networks of universities who know our work and get a lot of awards over the years for that work. But basically, any students in the United States now can sign up to go on a trip with my organization to a conflict or a conflict zone or a conflict affected environment. If it's the Middle East, if it's Northern Ireland, if it's Vietnam, and they can sign up for it, and they receive actually credit for it through the University of Wyoming. And we picked them because they're offering the lowest cost for credit per unit. So it's really important to me that students pay as little as they can for the most and best experience they can have. And so then they engage in a pre-trip education for a couple of weeks in the summer, and then they go on this very transformative 2 or 3 week trip to these areas, meet, with an incredible amount of people from government to nonprofits to faith leaders. Seeing things are very involved. 3, 4 meetings every day, but you're not in a room. You're like on a bus, you're walking, you're seeing, you're feeling, you're eating, you're experiencing, you're really immersing yourself so much into that. And you then are discovering these areas and the people who make up these areas in a much different way. And then you kind of take all of that learning and bring it hopefully back to your own studies, to your own research, and then hopefully stay involved with our alumni work. And if people care for this kind of work, if it's in the context of nonprofit or government or the world, then we have a large alumni network helping students then after they graduate to finding internships, jobs, and other ways, to pursue these careers.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty powerful right there, that it can transition into an internship into their careers. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, and I think for students, having been my students myself, I think it's sometimes really like the university is a beautiful space and it's lovely. There's so many things you can learn and so many people you can meet. But very often people don't also see the opportunities of travel and study and actually getting credit for that, And you can, instead of sitting in a classroom at your university for a whole semester or a quarter, you can actually be internationally living in another place, traveling and get the same credit. And also when you kind of graduate, I think there is, rightly or wrongly, a certain perception today that university students are a little bit too cuddled and too protected, like a little bit of wallflowers, that they cannot have any difficult conversation anymore, that they come with a lot of demands, but are really not willing to work hard or like be able to have a conflict and all of that. However, I think if you can share that during your, university college experience, you actually went to the Middle East and met with the people who make up the conflict there, or Northern Ireland or Vietnam, that is a very strong also message that you're sending as a student to future people to work with and employees, or if you start your own thing, about that you really are not afraid and that you're really prepared and have the skills and intellectual learning and knowledge of engaging this very complex, polarized, difficult world we're in. and are really, welcoming that. And so I think besides the credit, besides, better being internationally in another area than sitting in a classroom, it has also a tremendous impact, I think, on students' life, their transformation, and their opportunities for jobs afterwards.
Absolutely. Because it sounds like, through those conversations with different people of different cultures, there's a connection with humanity. You know what I mean? We can all come together with just one basic thing in common, our humanity. That's what it sounds like.
100%. And also, I think you learn a lot about yourself. I think, most of us have the experience. The more you talk to people who are different than you are, and you have to explain to them about your life and who you are, actually, in these conversations, you learn a lot about yourself. It's kind of a certain mirror, affect it has there. And being in these places and humanizing people and not just look at abstract, from a very short news headline at them, and look, there are people there, they're living their life and in their challenges, but they're also having a lot to offer to us in the way they're treating it, and the way they're dealing with it, and the way they make life happen there. You become really informed on so many levels. I think you become more informed about yourself, about the situation. And then you're traveling with students from many other universities and other places around the United States and international. And so also being in that space together with other students, learning with them, from them, and seeing how they're going through the same experience that you go through in a very different way is also very, very informative. And I mean, an incredible learning experience that, I have like 600-700 alumni I've worked with over the last 15 years. And, each time I meet them, they can tell me still like these amazing stories from their travel, the friendships that came from that, the transformative experiences, and how it reflected on their careers and what they did with them. It's important to see. And I think, myself, when I look at my life, some of these travel and education experience I had is really what informs me what I think today and what I do today. So I think experiences and having experiences, that is a very beautiful treasure trove, that's available to students. And very often, I think, people don't take the opportunity, feel like it's too expensive or too difficult, or don't even know about it. And so many people graduate from college with ever knowing or ever thinking about that this is available to them. So I want to help that everybody can be part of this and have these incredible experiences. And there's so many students for the first time leaving the United States, they're going into a different culture, into an actual conflict-affected area, and it's a wonderful experience. You don't have to be, a professional traveler with all of the experiences. You can just go there for the first time, and it's as powerful as other ways.
And it's a safe experience, it sounds like, as well.
It is a safe experience. I always tell people, we bring the students there and back. I have a very good track record about that. It is safe in itself. It is safe physically. It is, however, challenging intellectually, emotionally, and all of that. And that's, I think, is important, because I think you only learn through that challenge and evaluating, looking at things differently. I think that's how we learn as humans. And I think that's also how we should learn in college, to not just go and hear what we already know, but being challenged in the most beautiful, effective, and productive way.
Right. To really identify and find yourself, like you said, your unique self. That's great, through conversation. Now, you said there's faith leaders. So I assume there's an introduction to spirituality or a sense of purpose.
Yes, there's a lot of that. I think there's an introduction to culture, there's an introduction to religion, there's an introduction to, like humanity. There, you travel, your different time zone. You are, there's, when you go in a different place, there's also like an introduction to like what it needs to be, humble and a guest in a different culture. So there's a lot of introductions, so that the pre-trip education is not just so much only intellectual or knowing about the place or the history, the politics, but it's a lot also about cultural, language, history, religion, and then skills in how to have effective conversation, how to ask good question, active listening, how to be in a space where you actually get the answers that you're seeking in the way, or by the way you're asking the questions, and how to make really use of these really unique opportunities to sit in a room with people who normally would not meet with students, but through our relationships really have a passion to explaining themselves or to sharing, about their life and thoughts and thinking with a group of college students from the US.
That's amazing. I mean, that sounds like a skill, honest conversations. That sounds like a skill adults need,
I think it's a skill we all need. And the longer I do this work, it's not just a skill. I actually think it's a muscle. I feel like, being able to have these conversations is not just something that once you learn it, you do it or you can do it. You actually have to train it consistently. So I think, just sitting in a room and listening to people and asking a question or listening with an open heart and an open ear and being engaged and being willing to change where it's appropriate is actually, I think, a muscle that you need to learn, and if you don't, use that muscle a lot, then it's getting harder and harder and we're getting stuck who we are and in the way we look at the world. And it's really harder to move with it, the change that I think life requires. And, the flexibility in such a beautiful and diverse world we're living in.
And it's a fearful place to be in. If you really think about people that are isolated and don't really take the time to get to know different cultures and different people, there's a fear attached to that if you don't, as you say, develop that muscle.
It's a fear and it's a loneliness too. I think if everything you hear is just reflecting back what you already think, it becomes a very narrow, small, and lonely place. And that's just sad to be in that place in a world that has so much to offer. So I think it's more an invitation to people to really, and doesn't mean when you kind of out there and meeting other people that you change your opinion. Very often it just means that you're actually becoming more eloquent and expressive in the way you can defend and argue and share and feel and sense your own opinions as well. So I think it's not always that, the fear very often is the more you know or the more you go out there, the more, your own convictions become watered down or changed. I don't think that's the case. I think so many people I've seen, when they travel, have become deeper in their faith, have been deeper in their, ethnic and, nationality, gender, whatever, it's important to them. People deepen a different relationship to that by traveling and seeing others and by working through that and expressing themselves in different forms, in different contexts, in different cultures. So I think that the travel has a lot of like additional effect if it's done in the way we do it, where it's not that you just go as a client or as a consumer, but you're going as an invited guest to partake and to kind of immerse yourself into a different place, culture, with different people who really welcome you into their life, and you allow for that to happen. It is a wonderful, transformative way to travel and to change and to learn.
Yeah, and be a well-rounded individual, period. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. And I think, that's what we all should strive for, to be well-rounded and more joyful and happy. I think, sometimes, when you kind of sitting in this, it's so easy to doom scroll or to feel overwhelmed in the negative news. And sometimes to get out of there, if it's, I think so much, even just like taking a walk into nature, experiencing something different, eating a new food, meeting a new person, I think that keeps us alive. So I think the more I can contribute to that and allow and support students in doing that, I want to be part of it.
This is great. I mean, the internet already gave us the head start, so we are a global society at this point. We need to get to know each other.
We have to just use it. Unfortunately, the internet, most people use it to, support or find the things that they already know versus going out there exploring new things. But the internet is a great tool if you know how to use it the right way.
Absolutely. Wow, this has been powerful. Thank you so much for being with us. I always like to wrap up with final words of encouragement because we serve incoming college freshmen in a new environment as well as graduates going into that workforce. So what are some encouraging words for a young person that's just really seeking to discover their passion and just learn about themselves more?
I think it is just to know that there's so much opportunity out there. I think very often people come in and take away opportunity by just telling themselves that, they're not ready for it, that they can't, that they don't have the resources, the support, that, it's always, life will always be a struggle and a fight. And while there's a lot of that, I think my experience is the more people go out, ask for help, looking for these corners, these programs, these opportunities to travel, to meet, to find, a community of others who are like in the same situation. So you don't always feel like you're alone or you're the only one going through that. It helps you to really kind of find that passion for the world and to do that. And it really, I think keeps you happy. And it's the same if you're a freshman into college, just, take these opportunities and, the beauty and the joy of learning, or when you graduate, and the stress of finding a job out there. And experiences also means try things out and see if it works for you. I think, so many people are just afraid of like making a mistake or how it could hurt them. But I think sometimes not doing that is more hurtful, when you kind of just go with what you know than trying and stressing and stretching yourself. And if that means, some conflicts and difficult situation, you will grow from it. You will become a better person out there. Most innovation in the world and most growth happens through conflict. So the final thing I will say, there's this thing, it's called PTG, post-traumatic growth. Meaning that when you go through difficult situation, actually more people growing from these than PTSD, than getting post-traumatic stress or trauma. People do grow from experiences and challenges. And that doesn't have to be a conflict. They just go out, learn something, see something, be in a different environment, and make sure you kind of arrange yourself with it. So my encouragement is go out there, use the university what it's for, not just as a place where you go through knowing what you know, hang out with the same people, but meet new people, have new experiences, and try out something new. And if it's hard, that's part of the growth and will make you a better person.
That's great. You said PTSG.
PTG, post-traumatic growth, is very powerful.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Okay. This has been amazing. Like I said, I'm so grateful that we met and that you're able to jump on the podcast. Now, how can they connect with you if they want to learn more about your programming?
Yeah. So obviously online, go to www.cielglobal.org. One word, cielglobal.org. The website, you can, apply for our trips, get in touch with me, learn more about all the things we're doing. And, when you look, Instagram, it's a cl.global on Instagram as well. Or online, you can find us, follow the work we do. And as I said, any students anywhere that is in any institutions can be part of our programs, and we can find ways to support you. So when you come, read about it, learn about it, and you have questions or concerns, you're like, is it for me? Is it too expensive? How can I make it work? What's the credit? Before you just think, this is not for you, write us an email, let us know what your concerns are, and we'll work with you.
Excellent. Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel. I appreciate you.
Appreciate your program and the way you encourage people to really gain the most out of this college experience and afterwards. It's so important.
Yeah, it's the best time. I mean, some of my best friends I still have from college.
It's an incredible time that, hopefully people should not look back to it and say, I wish I would have known all of these things, or I missed out on all of these things, but come back and saying, I had the best time of my life, and then hopefully more best times afterwards because of it.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I look forward to connecting with you more in the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us. Consider adding more compassion to our world by studying abroad. We certainly need your influence. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about our book club and other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.
Back to me. Turn it around, I'm back to me.